What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Block Party. We appreciate you coming by and checking out the second review for Vox Machina. This is going over episodes 4 through 6. If you like all of my comments and suggestions and takeaways, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and come back. Every week we're going to be releasing these on the Friday after they air. So we're going to get right into this. Where we left off on the last episode, Vex died, essentially. Percy tapped the tomb of Pervan, who was the avatar or the champion for the Raven Queen, and set off this giant bolt of energy, killed Vex like boom, super fast. Instead of starting off with that, where exactly we left off, we actually get a little bit of a backstory. It does do a flashback for Vex and Vax. Vex was captured by some slavers, so Vax picked a lock, got to her. As they were trying to get out, they went into this cage to hide from a couple of bandits as they were walking, and found a bear that had been riddled with arrows. After a couple of, short moments with the bear, it was in extreme agony. Vex or Vax, one of them killed it. It doesn't really show. But in the corner, you spot a cub, and this cub is then taken up by Vax to become Trinket. So a little bit of a backstory on Trinket. Trinket's one of my favorite characters. It's also one of my girlfriend's favorite characters, so she is probably going to cry on that. But it was actually very well done. The emotion that was in it was conveyed pretty well. Even though it was animated and even though it was a bear, you still felt like the compassion that the mother had at the end of it. Just almost on like guard for the fact that somebody had came into the cage and also was watching over them. Once we get back into it, jumps back into the tomb. Vex is completely knocked. We do see Zara and Cash actually finally come out from wherever they were. Vax is distraught. He runs away from the area. They try to cast a resurrection spell, and Vax, during the first 3 episodes, Vax was seeing the Raven Queen, which is very strange. So in this, you actually see Vax watch her walk up to Vex, and essentially Vex's soul comes up from her body, and he just says, "Take me instead." You see her sever this tie with Vex and Vax, and then it goes into Vax, and then the next time we see Vax, he has the whole armor on for the champion of the Raven Queen, and he's confused. They're all confused. No one really knows what's going on. However, Zara and Cash are still trying to get it. We see a quick thing from Vax's memories, however, and it's actually, he sees the calamity happening. And he witnesses that the Sphinx mate was almost put into this, not a tomb, but encased in this large mountain kind of, which is brought back later on in one of the other episodes, episode 6. But he's kind of encased in this mountain. And it's definitely something that I hadn't seen before. And it almost looked or hints at the Raven's avatar Pervan at that time. So jump back into current time where Vax is no longer seeing any visions, or for now. Zara summons a beast that petrifies literally everyone except for Vax and Cash. And during the fight, Vax gets thrown back in to another vision, completely checks out for the whole time, gets the crap beat out of him by Pervan in the Calamity flashback, I'm going to say it is. It's like a vision, but it's also a flashback, but he was definitely getting injured. It probably was mostly in his head. Vax, however, gets to a point where he's so bloody and beaten that he sees a vision of Vex in the Calamity realm, or in the Calamity vision. He just stops. He no longer fears death. Pervan goes to attack him, and then magically Pervan's armor is no longer on him. It is on Vax, and Pervan actually bows. So it was almost like a handing off, and it was kind of a cool way to do attunement without doing attunement. They obviously didn't have enough time for the D&D mechanic of getting a long rest to attune to a magic item. Having that little kind of side quest inside of the side quest was a really cool aspect that they did, especially with the dynamic. And they've done that a couple of times. In Campaign 2, which did just get bought by Amazon Prime, I'm more excited than I am for this, honestly. I love Vox Machina, but Campaign 2 is what I started on. I watched all 100 and whatever episodes of it, There is so much trauma that is in that whole campaign. In the campaign, Yasha actually has a sequence very similar to this with another magic item. Obviously not going to give away any spoilers for it, but just saying, it's pretty cool. We fast forward in, Vax finally gets it, he snaps back out of it, and literally solos this creature. I don't know what type of creature it was. At first I thought it was a beholder, definitely was not anywhere close to a beholder. Kind of gave off like dark side vibes because the arms would shoot out in all these different ways, but they're all like straight like the dark side beam. It's kind of funny. Vax solos the entire thing and it is so dope. There is not a single bit of it that doesn't make it feel like the combat was just so intense during the whole thing. And during that time, Cash is unpetrifying the entire rest of the group. So that was a kind of cool sequence. We pass off to Zara. She gives Vex a magical item because of how terribly she feels about this whole situation. And it's the same thing that she actually had the creature encased in. Vex actually uses it to keep Trinket so that Trinket won't get hurt in certain sequences. Cool. Definitely cool. Vax is consistently having visions for the Raven Queen. I'm not 100% certain on what he does for the Raven Queen. I can't remember from season 1 or from campaign 1, and I don't want to spoil anything or unintentionally spoil anything for you guys because I have a feeling that the show is going to pay it off really well. So I'm going to leave those beside, but at the end of episode 4 we do start to see that someone is watching them. Someone is seeing them through like almost like an orb crystal. Looks like they're going into the town where the chromatic conclave is. That was kind of something really cool. Episode 5 starts off with a Keyleth flashback, and we see when her mother leaves to start her Aramente, which Aramente, Keyleth is part of the Arashari, which this is going to explain, the show actually does explain it pretty well. The Air Ashari, the Fire Ashari, Earth Ashari, and the Water Ashari. It's essentially the 4 elements. They're all individuals that are attuned to different types of them. You go through an Aramente, which is conquering all the elements. So Keyleth's mom was leaving to do her Aramente. That kind of sparked some really cool things. Vox Machina is camping up by the Fire Ashari of Pyra, and it's pretty much the last place that Key's mom was at during her Aramente. We also start to see a lot more on Grog and the Craven Edge. He is slowly becoming obsessed with it. He even has like a full-blown conversation with it while he's taking a dookie. Pretty much asking like, hey, are you ever going to be full? And the thing's like, no, I'm going to keep wanting blood. That's it. And Vax's visions are continually getting more consistent and more realistic. He's actually taking watch in visions this whole sequence, and he pretty much wakes everyone up. As they're continuing on their quest, they see that the volcano at Pyra is erupting, which it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be closed because that's the fire plane entrance. So, Vox Machina then has to go and help. Keyleth reconnects with her father, which was a cool interaction. Kima and Alora Vysoren, they were both there, and they were helping tame the Fire Realm portal. This is a cool thing. Now, during this whole sequence, there's a couple of like quick little bits of humor that they put into it. The humor in this show is so well written. A lot of it is because these characters and these actual like actors had so much of a chemistry going on between them that they kept a lot of that dialogue in. These people had been playing consistently this game for years leading up to this. So I'm glad that they kept a lot of that humor still in it. It kind of gives off the Avengers defeating world-destroying aliens but still having fun with it vibes. I'm not the biggest fan when it's done in Marvel movies because I think it's overdone, but in this, it's done tastefully to the point where it's not over the top and you're like, you don't feel like there's any risk, but this definitely had a risk to it. After they're starting to fight a little bit, Keyleth tries to help her father to pretty much close the portal. Instead, it widens the portal, everything goes crazy. Keyleth then starts to hear the voice of her mother, and the voice of her mother is pretty much telling her that she needs to gather the strength and she can close the portal. She has the power to. One thing that the Arashari are able to do is their whole aspect or idea behind it is fire has to have oxygen. So as long as they don't let fire hurt them, fire won't hurt them. It's kind of a cool concept, kind of like an elemental being concept. So she completely lays into this and literally goes into the fire plane. You see some of her skin start to like burn away, like 4th and 5th degree burns and stuff. And then she becomes this giant fire plane form that does like a kaiju power up explosion inside of there, closes up the whole plane, almost destroys the rift, and then just like swings back into the regular plane of existence with a whole new decked out outfit that all has to do with like the fire Ashari, which is dope. She doesn't have any of her antlers anymore. It's these really sick like built out fire emblems. It's awesome. I actually got a little bit of goosebumps when I watched it, not gonna lie, because for me that was just a really cool, impactful moment. There's a little bit more building on the Vax and Keyleth dynamic, which was hinted a little bit in season 1. They didn't touch it that much, but they're slowly getting into it now. And essentially she does the whole ritual, and the Fire Ashari grant her the blessing, so she has completely conquered fire, which is pretty cool. We see that person that was watching them at the end of episode 4 has gone forward and is now trying to help the Chroma Conclave by telling them that someone is looking for vestiges. We get into the last episode of this 3-pack drop. Starts off pretty cool. Grog is in, I would say, like a gladiator-esque area, just slicing through all of this with the Craven Edge. However, that slowly gets stopped short when his dream then turns into him killing all of Vox Machina. And he wakes up, freaked out, obviously. And we're really starting to see that Pike is catching on to something with this blade. We start to get a little bit more building on Percy and Vexalia's relationship, which I am very excited to see what they do with that in season 2, because there's 6 more episodes to come, and I'm pretty excited because they could do a lot with the relationship in that amount of time. They finally get to this place that's like consistently cold, find this temple. It's the same temple that Vax had seen in one of his visions during the Divergence, and we meet Kamaljore, which Kamaljore is the mate to the other Sphinx. Essentially, the Sphinx is like, hey, I'll give you these 3 options, you let me know what you want to work with, and then if you can do this, I will tell you where the vestiges are. And they're like, sick. Well, there's one where he's like, you have to wound me. They're like, oh, that should be easy. So everybody goes into this like void plane. I think that's what it's called. They never even specified. I'm gonna call him Kama. So Kama pretty much gets all set up. Everyone goes to fight him. And essentially everyone loses except for one. Scanlan is left alone. And just as Kama is about to just completely obliterate him and throw him into the void so that they're all floating endlessly in the void forever, Scanlan's like, hey, wait. I know how to fix this. Let me sing you like, a quick song or something like that. Like I can definitely do something for you. So he sings this like really well done, really well written, and really well sang song that's all about the Sphinx and the mate, and it's got all of these really cool magic aspects to it. You start to see that like they're singing to each other, they're flying around with each other, very musical-esque, like kind of Disney movie type of vibe with magical beings. Scanlan wounds him, and wounds him right in the heart, and the Sphinx completely counts that, and they become best buds. Like, the Sphinx loves Scanlan. Scanlan opens up a little bit, too. He kind of explains that he wants love very badly, but he keeps looking in the wrong places, essentially, is what the Sphinx tells him. Scanlan is then given the Myth Carver, which the Myth Carver is one of the rest of the vestiges, and it shows him where the rest of the vestiges are, and one of them being in the Fey Realm. As Scanlan also is seeing this, he sees that in Westrun, there is another set of vestiges, and it is a gauntlet that is being held by what looks to be the leader of Grog's old herd, and is also being protected by the dragons. Just as that is wrapping up, Umbrasyl, the acid dragon, shows up and fights the Sphinx, and so they're like, hey, if he's fighting the Sphinx, we might be able to take him. So they just all start piling on to Umbrasyl. It's a pretty intense battle. There's a lot of back and forth to it. Grog's sword starts to get fed very well by dragon blood, and he starts to go absolutely crazy with the sword. And as he is just super keyed into this, he stabs Pike and essentially what looks like kills her. As they're doing this, Keyleth is putting together the spell to do shift and to shift them into another realm. She does that successfully. After Umbrasyl runs kind of into them, it keys into the Fey realm. Keyleth, Percy, Vex, and Vax are all there, but Grog, Pike, and Scanlan are nowhere to be seen. All in all, from these episodes, I'm pretty happy with what they did. There was a lot of really good world building, a lot of really good backstory to a lot of the characters, even if it's small characters like Trinket, but building more on Vex and Vax's background, the relationship, building up for Vax's relationship and stewardship to the Raven Queen is also something that's really cool. Keyleth's character development is really good. Grog's curse development is getting very insane, and the stakes are extremely high. We don't know what the heck is going on with Pike. So all in all, from these episodes, I will say none of them were fillers. There's always that first initial, the first 3 episodes came out, so you're excited. The excitement is tapered a little bit with these, so I'm going to say a solid 9.1 for all of these. They're good, and it's really well done. Every other aspect from the first 3 episodes were stayed consistent. Humor's still there, score is still there, voice acting is still superb. There was some kind of cringy type of dialogue from Cash. Other than that, it was pretty solid all the way around. So got no complaints. 9.1 is going to be my solid score on it. I'm very excited for the next 3 episodes because I think the Raven Queen is going to be dove into a little bit more, especially if Pike is out. The Fey realm is also being introduced, and they are in it now. That's a cool realm. It's got a bunch of craziness. Trees are upside down. Waterfalls just go off into nothing. Pretty dope. Those are my full thoughts on the episode 4, 5, and 6 of Vox Machina Season 2. If you guys liked my commentary, if you guys liked my explanations for it, drop a like, leave a comment, let us know what you guys are thinking about this season. We're halfway through it now. It's building up. I'm after each set of the 3, somebody has died. I don't know who is next up to die. I don't really remember it. I'm scared because there is one character I think that might die that stays a little bit more permanent, but we shall see. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a great day. Subscribe if you haven't, and have a great weekend.